everyone. Thanks for joining us once again for a brand new episode of Four Friends in a Book podcast. My name is Chris Colson. Of course, I'm here with my friends, Isaiah Tukes, Kimberly Lake, Laria Reed, and this book for the month of November. We are reading 107 days, by former Vice President, Miss Kamala Harris. Mm-hmm. So look, hopefully you guys aren't tuned in for the very first time, but if you are, Four Friends in the Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion about a book that we're reading here together. So we read a book each month and we come here to discuss that book, to talk about it and talk about some things that may not even relate to that book. So we like to consider ourselves a book club, book lovers, book reviewers, mixed with just table talk amongst friends. And at the end, we hit you with this rant from my good brother Isaiah, the rant man, where he just speaks freely from his heart and rants for 60 seconds to close out our show each month. So again, if you haven't already, please get caught up in current with Four Friends in the Book podcast. Look, we are in season 6. So look, we ain't no newbies. We've been doing this for a while. So for those that have been rocking with us for a while, we appreciate you guys and your support and your continued support. So continue to tell friends about these four friends over here on Four Friends in the Book podcast. All right. So look, let's get into it again. We're reading 107 Days by Miss Kamala Harris, former vice president, really kind of recapping her experience from the previous presidential election of 2024. As we all know here in the United States, Joe Biden was the president. Kamala Harris was the vice president. Joe was planning to run for the presidential election. He decided to withdraw, leaving Kamala Harris to be the nominee for the Democratic Party with 107 days to kind of figure out that process and how to go forward. And so now she's kind of graced us with some insight, her experience of what those 107 days look like, with her kind of tell our story about that campaign, that election cycle, and that process that kind of is being highlighted or captured in this book. So let's get into it. Look, I want to start out with a quick quote. Like, I ain't did a quote in a while, so let me break this quote out. So it was actually within her acknowledgement of this book, and she says, "This book is my effort to capture what I saw, experienced, and learned on the campaign. This experience was almost like living the campaign in reverse, which has not been easy." So again, she's kind of reflecting on those 107 days of that campaign process, the actual election, and even post-election, and even, again, still being responsible for swearing in the new president, or our current president, Donald Trump. So look, let's get into this book. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack it. Let's discuss it. And let's get into my favorite question, which y'all already know what it is. What did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, what would that be? And Big Sis gonna kick me off. I'm looking at it right now. So Laria Reed, what did you think about this book? And if you had to rate it, what would that be?
So,
Here we go.
You know, author to author, Kamala. You know, I was just joking, but it was a lot of information, and how should I say this? And this was her issue, quote unquote, on the campaign trail, where she's just a kind of a boring kind of person. And she's just a boring kind of person in her writing too. It's a little laid back. I mean, but that's just who she is. And that's not to say everybody has to be this bubbly personality, but she's just Kamala. So her writing to me came across as kind of, it was okay. The information in it was very juicy. But I give it like a 7. I really, it was good information. It was a lot of things that I did not know. But it was still it started feeling a little repetitive to me. with each of the different, she did highlight some certain things in there or whatnot and some little nuggets. And yeah, but I'm kind of like, all right, let's wrap this thing on up. What I got about, I'm like, all right, we had 60 days. Okay, so how much longer I've been, I was kind of getting like that. So I kind of had to start trying to make myself get through it at that point. So that's why I give it like a 7. But it was well written. I enjoy the fact that she had details for each one of them. So she had to have been journaling. Somebody was journaling for her where she could recount all of that. That took a lot of work. So not saying that the work was minimized, but it was just a lot. So for me at least.
Okay. No, I get it. All right, coming to my brother next. Look, he our local politician, so we for our little political contributor here on Four Friends in the Book, Isaiah Tooks, man. What did you think about this book and what their rating be?
So based on this book, this is why I ride with VP Kamala Harris. Like, the story. This story that reading these 107 days frustrates and inspires me at the same time. Like, after reading these 107 days of what she went through, you just feel such a burst of urgency in trying to get closer to a better future for tomorrow, because we already see of the state of where this country's in, today. And, after reading this book, it makes you want to call to action of for having a better future, not just for ourselves, but for our lineage as well, too. But I just don't understand how could we just possibly let a candidate with so much experience just slip through our fingers. I'm so glad that she shared her experience. She shared what she was going through, like 107 days to be the leader of the free country of the United States of America. Like, this just, regardless of your views or how you feel about her, I just think this book just gives you a better understanding of who she was, what she stood for. And it just reminds us just to fight. Like, when we all fight, we win, Like Laria, I'm going to agree with Laria to a certain point. Like, even though I know a lot of the backstory of it, it just like you do see a lot of repetitive. I just knew her story just because I've been following her since her Senate days as well too. But some of the stuff I was surprised about what happened. Because still I know how the country that we live in. But some of the stuff is just like wow, like you would do that to a presidential candidate. But we're going to get into that soon. But I think I'm also rate the book a 7 as well too. Not saying it was a bad way, because she wrote this book good. It's just that a lot of us was a little repetitive because I guess I knew it as well too. But I think I'm gonna go with Lorraine and rate this a 7 as well.
Okay. So we got 2 7s starting off 107 days. So look, kind of fitting for this book. So coming to Miss Lake next. Kim, what did you think about this book and what would you rate it? Look, give us a whole number. You're going to do these half numbers.
I'll keep you on edge. We'll see at the end. But I listened to this book on Audible, as most books. So she was the narrator. So I did enjoy her, like, reading the story. Like Laria and Isaiah said, it's very detailed. So it counts like the 107 days. So it's day 107, day 9. Like, she's going through all the days. So you get a full picture of what happened. And I enjoyed it because I could see things happening on the front end, but to know the back end of the information was really cool. And like Laria said, there was some juicy things in there. So I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. So overall, I did enjoy the book. At the end, I did feel like it was like, okay, let's go ahead and like wrap it up because it land a plane. So I might have sped it up a little bit at the end, but I did enjoy the book. And if I were to rate it, I actually would rate it an 8.
Okay.
An 8.0, a whole number, Chris. So there you go.
Hilarious.
So yeah, I would give it 8.
Okay.
And that's based on like just the information and being so detailed. I enjoyed that part. So
yeah. Nah. Okay, good. So I kind of wrap this one up. Yeah, so it was an interesting read as well. It did get kind of, I mean, of course, it's not very exciting because we witnessed some of these events and some of these activities like firsthand. So it wasn't like as thrilling because we also knew the outcome. I mean, it was good to get the background and hear her like personal experience. And also to kind of see her reflect on some stuff, like things that she thought that, I probably shouldn't have did that, or I probably shouldn't have said that, or I may have been able to do this better. And for her even to have those moments and even to be expressive of that, not sure if that would have changed the outcome. I mean, of course, we know what the outcome was, but just kind of hear her go through that process. And as you guys mentioned, just even to relive this time period. I mean, starting from July 21st through, the election day of November, and then even going beyond into, swearing in President Trump. So to hear that day by day account and her kind of reflection and that thought process of what was going on with her campaign and behind the scenes as well. So that part was kind of interesting, but it didn't really completely draw me in. And I don't know if I was kind of too familiar, and the stuff that she was kind of giving just maybe didn't give me enough to really fully like draw me in. Kind of like Kim, I did listen on Audible as well. So her kind of narrating was good, and she did a good job of that. But not the greatest book, but I think I'm kind of in line with Isaiah and Laria on this one. So I'm gonna go with a 7 as well. Wasn't bad, wasn't the best. A good read, and especially if you were a part of this process, this election process at all. I mean, or if you were very consumed with how the process worked out, I think it'd be still rewarding or worth the insight to kind of see her perspective or hear her perspective about what she felt like those 107 days were. So, so we kind of talked about it, and y'all kind of mentioned some things as far as, some details you may not have been aware of, and even kind of learning some stuff, outside of what was at the forefront of just kind of on the news and politics of what we know as a whole. But one of the things that was kind of interesting to me was like, I didn't realize that there was a little bit of like internal strife between her and Joe to a certain degree, even from that whole VP president perspective, and also even some stuff that was going on in the White House. But kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinion about, was Kamala maybe, like, I guess her loyalty to Joe Biden, and also, do you think there was a strength or a weakness throughout this campaign? And especially given the fact that she was only allowed or afforded these 107 days to kind of campaign and go through this election process. Like she wasn't the nominee from the beginning. So kind of want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about her loyalty to Joe. And then was that actually a benefit to her, or did it actually hurt her campaign in this process? And I'm gonna let my brother Isaiah take a stab at this one, man. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think the loyalty to Joe was like one-sided based on her words alone. Like, this is your VP candidate, and why are you calling her the night of one of the biggest debates that she has, just to make sure that you protect his legacy, not hers? That was just interesting how they're working, especially with his wife as well, as calling her, asking her if she mad at her about something that she just basically was blindsided about. I think this administration could have done better with protecting her, but we understand from past of what's going on, like the most disrespected person in America would be the Black woman, based on the words of Laria's husband. So,
my man, Malcolm.
I think we could have
Look, Malcolm's still showing up.
Malcolm
even in the first episode.
He's always
season
around.
1, episode 1.
I know, that's crazy.
But I think they could have better protected her. But I wasn't surprised about how that conversation go, because, seeing a lot of the things that the news said about her and the administration and tried to clear it up, and they didn't even allow her to clear it up. They just let people just go with the story, just go with the flow. And, it was a bigger issue out there. They weren't talking about her, what she was overcoming at the border walls, or what she was doing to help with foreign policy. And even with her, like, it takes me probably 107 days just to pick out what type of tile I want to use in type of a house. So just imagine I have to get a whole presidential race over the finish line in 107 days. They don't understand that magnitude. And this is my issue too as well. We're going to talk about that later with the Democratic leadership. That if you knew that you did not want Joe Biden to run it, you knew way before July 21st 2024 that you did not want him to run again. And you put this pressure on her lap and she had to run with what she had. And she did the best of what she did. And we don't want to talk about the millions of dollars she raised overnight when she became candidate. So I think that with the resources that she had, she did the best that she could do with the 107 days. I think even if she had more time, could actually reach out to more different people, I think we would have had a better outcome if people could hear her side of the story, get to know her more personal, but all they knew is the bots that were being spread about her, the administration, the former administration that was talking about her, saying of what she was doing in her former days as a DA prosecutor. And it felt like she always tried to have to clean her story rather than just to go and full speed ahead about trying to get and reach out to these people that she wanted to reach and hear from her. So, you know, it was a hard thing, I think, from the beginning, but I say this, I'm going to keep saying this, like she was the perfect candidate to me. That's why I voted for her, and I'm still proud of my vote as well, too. You know, I think that, you know, we could have done better to stand behind her as well, too. We even talked about that from the beginning of the percentages, even just from Black folks who voted for her as well, but that's a whole nother different topic as well, too. But I'm gonna let somebody else go because I don't want to go on a tangent down a deep hole.
A pre-rant.
Isaiah getting riled up behind that conversation.
Yeah.
and I get it, because I think, again, like, the presidential election, especially within our country, is such a big deal and a big thing. And so, and I think a lot of people even now are seeing the impact of their vote or lack of not voting. So it's good to kind of hear that passion coming out from you. Kim, what are your thoughts about, I guess, the campaign and even Kamala's kind of loyalty to Joe? Was it to her benefit? Did it hurt her? Did she not, distance herself enough? Was she too close and then separate herself from, like, his legacy? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
So in the book, she talks about loyalty a lot with herself and Joe. And even like when she was looking for her own VP, like loyalty was like big with her. So I commend her for being loyal. However, as I was listening to the book, I do think that she was too loyal to him to a fault, because I forgot who told her, like her campaign manager, somebody, because at certain points in the campaign when she was answering questions, she was still tying herself to Joe Biden like tightly. And somebody had to break it to her, like, look, people don't like Joe Biden. Like, he's not, like, you got to start separating yourself from him. So I think to a fault, she was loyal to him. And I think because, she was a good VP with him. She was loyal to him and his family. And Jill, I said, Jill was a little, spicy. I know that. Yeah, I said, calm down, Jill. But about Joe Biden.
You talking about my man in a debate? Oh, it's gonna stay there. I heard what you said.
So I was like, wow, okay, got a little gangster. But I do think that she was loyal to a fault, in the sense of she didn't separate herself enough. So people were able to be like, oh, you're just going to get another Joe Biden in office, when he already was like on the down trend and people weren't liking him. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Laria, what are your thoughts about even, I guess, that loyalty? And we kind of talked about Jill and her kind of stand up for her man. I mean, of course, she needs to be loyal to him, but was that Kamala's responsibility as well? And was that a benefit or a disservice to her, especially within this campaign and how things have played out?
Well, I want to know the other side of the story. I'm just like, what happened? I was on Audible listening. I'm like, what happened that caused that? Because it was so... You know how somebody just always keeps saying the elephant, the elephant, the elephant. So now you're looking for the elephant. What is it? Where's the elephant? Where's the elephant? And it was just like loyalty kept coming up. And I'm like, now, wait a minute now. Hold on. So what happened to cause people to wonder if you are loyal? And why do you keep emphasizing that you're so loyal? Not saying that people don't lie, but I'm just saying, I want to know the other side of the story. Like, what happened to cause all of this friction? And one thing that I did know is, because y'all know I be listening for real. So when they announced that she was going to be the candidate, now y'all know I love Barack and Michelle. So they're my people. When they called, I don't know if you all heard, but she said that Bill Clinton and Hillary was like, yeah, whatever you need,
like immediately.
Yes. When they told Obama, he said, we're going to decide which way we're going to go with this. Or something along those lines. It wasn't like you have our full support. And even during the campaign, I never heard Michelle Obama say fully like, I support Kamala Harris, because she's just that kind of a person to cheer on women. So I was looking for that even during the campaign. So I thought when I'm reading the book, it's gonna talk, it's gonna talk about that. But she never mentioned like Michelle Obama was behind them now. And I'm thinking, now what happened? I just really want to know, like, is there a behind the scenes story that we don't know about? Because it just felt so like she was trying to prove, that she was really with him. I'm not saying that she wasn't, but it just feels really like something is missing. You know how you just, I like to hear his side, her side, and the truth. And I just felt like I got one side of it. Of course, it's her book, but I just wanted her to be a little more forthcoming. I know she did speak about how Jill was holding things over her head from what she said about Joe during a debate, which I love Kamala on when she had to debate Donald Trump. That was like the mollywop of 2024. I enjoyed that. But, it was just like, I don't know, maybe I'm reading into things too much, but it just felt like it's something that we're missing that wasn't stated, with this whole loyalty thing. Because I'm just like, I really wanted to say, well, what? Like for Joe Biden to call you before you have to go on the stage, like, are we trying to win or what? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and these people said you was talking about me. It sounded like grade school stuff. And I'm just like, was it that bad where you had to call somebody before they debate? You know what I'm saying? It's just, I don't know. I just was trying to figure out what was going on. It just felt so, I don't know, drama filled. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely was a lot. And I think hearing that kind of behind the scenes part was somewhat interesting. As you guys kind of mentioned, that was a common theme and a thread throughout. And I think she highlighted it a little bit because she was saying how I don't think she wanted to appear to be a certain way or to appear to be self-serving to tell Joe, hey, you shouldn't do this. Or even I think at one point they tasked her to kind of assess what the climate of like how people felt about Joe. And like she was saying, I'm only going to call people that I know. Like I'm not going to call people that may take this the wrong way. So there doesn't seem to be, there was some hidden something in the mix because she didn't want to come off a certain way. And I don't know if they were just based on her, past run for the presidency and like, and now even think about the future and what that may look like for her. Like, I don't know if that has something to do with it. But it was definitely kind of weird. But I think even to her kind of loyalty to Joe and kind of her association with it, I think she, even in hindsight, like reflecting on it, like ultimately she wasn't the president. So
right.
Like she's people asking her about these questions about his policies and she's the VP. And, we often talk about like the VPs are kind of in the shadows. I mean, because honestly, like there's not a well-defined standard of what a VP is. I mean, you just kind of the little tag-along partner. I mean, the president and the guidelines of what they can and can't do are very well defined. Your VP is almost kind of like an afterthought sometimes or whatever. And so I think in that regard, she should have kind of separated herself more to really stand out and to say, hey, look, I was a vice president. He was a president. But if I have the presidency nomination or if I win, like this is what I kind of will do. And I don't think she did that. And I think that was, it kind of hurt her, especially considering that she was on a limited time and every statement that she made was kind of critical. And so to not really take those moments or opportunities to distinguish herself, especially when there was some kind of, some uncertainty about even the capacity or the capability of Joe Biden being president going forth. So I think in that regard, it did kind of hurt her. So Isaiah brought up a good point, and I kind of want to talk about that or even get you guys' opinions. So he mentioned, and again, just the fact that she didn't get the full nomination from the beginning, and that there may have been some some doubt or some questionability about even Joe being capable of running. So, and him kind of dropping out after or at a later time, and so not giving Kamala that kind of full campaign window to really make the most out of her activity or her campaign. So, what are you guys' thoughts about if she had more time, or if Joe would have dropped out like sooner? Do you think that would have made a difference? Would the outcome have been different? Like, what are your thoughts and opinions about the fact that she had only 107 days? Like, if she had more time or had the full window, do you think that would have made a difference? And could she have actually gone better, or the results may have, been closer or whatever? So, kind of thoughts and opinions on that. And I'm open up to whoever want to talk about it. Like, I know my boy Isaiah maybe itching to jump on
it.
it.
I'm itching. I'm itching. I think 108 days would have made so much better than what she had. Like no other candidate had more government, economic, foreign affairs, policy experience than VP Kamala Harris, and I still stand to this on this day. Like I cannot see anyone mending our allies and our relations with our allies, because it's broken now. You see it from what's going on, overseas as well too. But from my eyes, I'm still proud of my vote. I'm still proud of what she stood on, because she stood on the same values that I stand on as well. And I still reminded that, she's still a genuine person. I know she cared about the people. She cared about the people she represents, because her model from all the way from DA to Senate, like she stands for the people.
That's good. Kim Laria, any thoughts about if she had more time with that? Do you think they would have changed the outcome of that election or even her campaign?
Well, I don't think, of course, 170 days was enough time. Mm-hmm. But the optimistic side of me, I'll say this. I think if she had more time, we could have got a better feel of her and her experience. Like they could have really, well, let me say this. Let me go back. How she talked about in the book, how Trump's campaign would say things about her or other people, and how they would defend her, like her record, or they really wouldn't come out against those things. Like I remember her laugh being like a big news story. So stuff like that. I think if she had more time, she could combat those things. So that's like the optimism in me. But as a whole, as a country, I think if she had more time, seeing how we are now and like the landscape and the feel of everything, I'm not sure she still would have won, just because of just how we are in America right now. But I think she would have had, I think it would have been, I don't want to say a better shot, but it would have been more, I can't think of the word.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have felt more of her depth, more of her. Of course, I knew that because, but I think other people didn't get a chance to really know her. So if she had more time, they would. But I don't think that would have really changed things overall. Just going off of how America is right now. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I definitely don't think she got a fair shot at it. But yeah. Loretta, any thoughts on, I guess, if she had more time, or would things have been different or able to be done differently if she had the full campaign window? Or do you think it would have still kind of been the same results?
So let me get outside the book for a quick second. My thought process was, I felt like the Democratic Party put Joe Biden up there to show that he was not, when he had to do that debate, to show that he was not capable of being the president. And I think the plan was to put her up in that short amount of time, because if you think about it, Hillary Clinton did a full-fledged, great campaign, ran that thing, and lost to Donald Trump. And I know a woman of color coming in, if she would have ran a full campaign, I think she probably would have had less votes. That's just me being honest with the way we are. If I would have put my nephew RJ up against Donald Trump, RJ should have won. It shouldn't have mattered who we had, really. And for us to have an intelligent woman the way she was, it shouldn't have taken 30 days if you're going against a Donald Trump. To me, that's just, who would you trust with your children at the house? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not hard questions. with who she was going against. So to me, I think that it was kind of I think that they did that on purpose to actually just give her the time to go on and get in there, do as less damage, because I just don't feel like our country wants a woman, and we definitely don't want a woman of color as a country. And so I think they were just trying to shorten the length of time. Everything to me, I was big on Scandal, the show. Yeah. I feel like everything is strategized. I feel like these people are professionals and they know what works and what didn't work. And I feel like they thought that if we close the window, it'll be less time to poke holes in the story. Even though there were, you know what I'm saying? Because even some Black people, she was locking up people. She was locking up Black folks. And they were criminals. She had to do her job. She's a prosecutor. So it was just a lot of little things like that. But to me, if you have a woman of that high of intelligence going against a Donald Trump, it should not matter the length of time. That's just my thought. And maybe that's the way they thought too. But I think it was all a strategy. I think it was a good strategy in a way to just slide her on in there, because if she would have run a full race, I don't think we would have gotten the votes that we had. That's just my thought process.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on it. I don't think I thought of it from that perspective. I personally kind of thought of like it was a setup. Like I feel like
it was a scheme.
I felt like she was set up for failure. Yeah, I don't think she had a fair shot or an opportunity, but I think that was by design. But and Larry, you kind of touched on a good point, which I kind of want to get you guys. Look, we've been talking a lot about this, so I ain't gonna belabor it too much. But are we even ready for a female president here in the United States? And the other part of that, and I'll just answer real quickly, but do you think this is the last that we've seen of Kamala? Like, will we see Kamala Harris 2028? Like, do you think she's going to take another stab at it, or is she actually done? So, Larissa, since you kind of kicked it off, I'll come back to you.
I don't think the country it's not that we're not ready. I don't believe that as a whole we want that. And I'd like to say really quickly too, I think in a sense with her wanting to choose Pete Buttigieg, I can't never say his name.
Yeah.
I feel like she's out of touch with the country as well, because I'm like, he's an openly gay man, no shade, no tea, nothing like that. But I'm like, have you been to Georgia and South Georgia? Do you know what we have going on in these? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And she was like, that was my first choice. And I'm thinking, girl, where have you been? Like, what? I feel like, I feel like we are more progressive in our thought process, even with the mayor of New York. Now, a lot of people are like, the whole country's going to be Muslim. Like, what? How? You know what I'm saying? But that's the thought process, the backwards thinking in America that we have. And so I feel like even with her thought and even the people that are around her are out of touch with what's really going on. Like, I'm just confused a little bit. Yeah. I'm like, who are you all polling and where you all, what's happening here? So
yeah, I do think on the Pete part, and she kind of made mention to it. She was like, if I was a white straight male, then Pete might have been a good fit. But considering who she was, I think that was kind of like, all right, this definitely ain't gonna work for me, because now you got two minority populations that's the country probably ain't really ready for. So
yeah.
Kim, thoughts and opinions about, are we ready for a female president? And also, is this the last that we've seen of Kamala?
I'll say no. And that's just like Larissa, just based off the landscape of America. And even like when a woman runs, like I've seen in street interviews, like they'll talk to people that are voting like, well, I don't want a woman because, women are too emotional. Women are too, it's still a lot of that going on. So I don't think America as a whole is ready for a woman president. Other countries in the world are, though. So kudos to them. And as far as her being done, I don't think the way she kind of is talking now, I don't think she is done. I think she does want to kind of come back out, but I'm not sure. I think her time that was her kind of time. And I think now they're trying to move on to other people or their potential candidates. So I do think she might pop back out actually, but I think they're going to go in a different direction just with how it went last time.
Gotcha. Isaiah, any quick thoughts about female presidency and also are we going to see or hear more from Kamala in 2028?
So despite, the views of this country may have on sexism, misogynistic, I think that we are ready for a female president. And you have to think at it from this perspective. We have a lot of Gen Z. A lot of 16-year-olds that are ready to vote that will be voting in this next election cycle, and they outnumber the baby boomers. They're outnumbering almost us except for the millennials, and they have a lot to say. So these are newer leaders that are coming up, and they have a lot of views. They have a lot of opinions, and I think a lot of candidates needs to take what they're saying for face value. Like, They have a lot to say. You can see this last election cycle, the spike of numbers of these young voters that actually got out there and voiced their opinion. So I think they may change the perspective of how this country is being viewed within the next 4 to 8 years. And I think that's why my thought process was we are ready for a female president based on the newer generation. The older generation, the baby boomers, you can't change that thought process of how they view things 50 years ago. But with this new generation, they have a lot to say, and they're coming full speed ahead with what they have to. So I think we have to take what their thought process is going on. We've been seeing in these new election cycles that these young adults, they are winning these races as well too, because people are believing in what they're saying. Like they have a lot to say, and I think that this is not the last time we're seeing Kamala Harris. Like, she may not run for like something like a president's election, but I think she will make an excellent Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense. I think that from her past experience, from like her foreign affairs experience, like she has a lot to still offer. I think it's a lot more going forward than she can offer than what she left behind.
Gotcha. That's good. All right, guys. So look, we had our 3 7s and an 8 for 107 days by former Vice President Kamala Harris. So if you guys have read this book, we would definitely love to hear your ratings and your thoughts and review of it as well. So definitely hit us up in the comments and give us that feedback. And if you haven't read it, of course, go out and check it out, pick it up, and come back and tell us about it, your thoughts and opinions as well. So. All right, so let's transition a little bit, but kind of within the same lane. I mean, we're still within this government and the kind of state of our country. And so in our last episode, we were kind of stepping into a government shutdown. Now, for this month, we are after 43 days, we are finally out of our government shutdown, which has been the longest that this country has seen. So a lot of government functions were closed. We saw impacts to SNAP and food and benefits to people. There's still this huge healthcare thing that hasn't been fully addressed. We saw with TSA, FAA, air traffic controllers, and how that impacted, travels and things of that sort. So a lot of impact to this country due to this shutdown, and again, it being 43 days. So it's kind of what you guys' thoughts and opinions about that. I guess the impact as a whole of the shutdown, and also, do you think was it really even worth it at this point, considering that we went through this time period, a lot happened, which I still don't understand the fact that our government, that we do this, like. No other country, no other well-developed country has a period where you cut off services to your citizens, or you have people that's working and they aren't going to get paid, and then even trying to now persecute those people for trying to make a living, trying to get out here to eat, and do things of that sort. And I kind of mentioned in our last episodes, like I was furloughed, I was affected during this time period, so I was impacted with this. And I'm really proud of people and their humanity. Like people stood up. You saw people donate to food banks. You saw your churches stepping up, doing things of that sort. So from that perspective, I think people and the humanitarianism of people and the humanity of people kind of stood out. But it's just sad that it takes these activities of a shutdown or a hurricane or something else for the people to actually kind of do right. So I don't think the shutdown itself was effective because I honestly I don't know what we got. Just like we shut everything off for a period of time and now we're back open. But
correct.
I want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions on shutdown. Was it effective? Was it worth it? And even more so concerning, like this new continuing resolution is only good to January 30th. So we could potentially be back in this same position again. So just want to get you guys' thoughts and opinions about shutdown. Was it effective? Was it worth it? Should the Democrats have held out? Should they not even gotten to this point? Just open the floor for you guys to kind of speak on thoughts of government, current government, future government. It's all crazy. Kim, you got any thoughts? Oh, we going back to Isaiah.
I'm looking
again?
at Isaiah. I'm looking at his body like
started tensing up.
Right?
Look, I'm trying to wait for my guess on thoughts before I get to going. One of the things that just frustrates me with this just around this latest government shutdown was just the lack of strategy. Like, what was the point of being shut down for 41 days, 43 days to come back to the same issue? And this may be a spoiler alert, but I may be talking about this something deeper in the later of the show. But we all knew what we was dealing with this last shutdown. I think with the last one, it was like 35 days for who was going to pay for a border wall. But I just want to be clear about the fact that, the Senate Democrats, they knew who our opponent was, and they still didn't go to battle with the right tools. And I think the biggest issue, just to point out were that you have people watching people losing their SNAP benefits, like Chris said, people are suffering to pay their healthcare premiums, and letters are coming out saying that your health care is going to actually soar. And I think we took that into consideration. And they should just to make sure that people can actually survive who are actually going through some healthcare serious crisis when they actually need to use this healthcare that they're actually paying for. And now we're faced with which poison to drink. Do you pay your healthcare premiums or do you go and put food on the table for your family? And I think that we saw a big flow in this last election cycle because people are tired of what's going on within our state of this country. And I think that's why you saw a lot of people going out. You saw this blue wave as well, too, of people going out to the polls. And, I still don't understand, like, what's the point? We're in the same situation. Like, people, like, we have a host up right here on the podcast. He was affected by the shutdown. So what was the point of being home? People are home without a job to come back to the same issue is not even worse. Or now they can't even afford to go to the doctor, something that should be a minimum for an American citizen.
No, that's good. Kim, Laria, any thoughts on the effectiveness of this shutdown?
Well, I was on my fave for now, TikTok. And it was funny. I started seeing like stories. People are like, "Oh, they're about to cave and all this stuff." And I think a lot of people kind of had that same feeling as you were saying, Isaiah. It was just kind of like, well, people were going without food, which is crazy, by the way. How that was even effective. That's sick. So, how people were suffering so much and to come to the point where it's just like, well, okay, it's like you didn't really get anything out of it. And people are like, what was the point of me losing 3-4 checks? And like all the stress of that, like what was the point of it? Especially like Isaiah said, January is coming right back around. It didn't really solve anything. It just kind of kicked it down the road a little bit. And I have ACA healthcare. So my premium's gone up a couple $100s as well. So I can imagine just like a family of 4, I just feel like it's getting really ridiculous. It just makes no sense to me, but that we're in this situation, especially as us as citizens of this country. But I don't think that the shutdown was effective. And at some point I'm like, they could have stopped earlier if they knew, I feel like they kind of knew it was trending this way. So they could have just saved people a lot of suffering, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
if they were just going to do that anyway. So we'll see what comes in January. But yeah, for now, I don't think it was very effective.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts on this whole effectiveness of government shutdown? I know Isaiah probably gonna talk about it again, but any thoughts about the effectiveness of shutdown and kind of just how this whole thing played out? Was it worth it? Was anything even accomplished? Just what's your opinion about that?
I'm just gonna say this is why it's so important to vote and to know who you're voting for. Ooh. And everybody's always like, oh, it doesn't affect me. Well, it didn't hit home and it's affecting you, you know? Right. And I think that when the American people realize we hold all the cards, when we start really knowing that, because my thing is, why don't we come together and drop insurance and see how that works out for everybody? Exactly. See what goes, like we control everything. We're the consumer, we're the voter, we're everything, but we don't stick together to say we are not doing this. And, a lot of things would change if the majority of us just stuck together and got it done, Right. So my thing is voting is so essential. Voting for the right people in office to get things done that can make decisions that are fair, because this was not fair. I'm all about, if we need to make changes, but keep people's benefits and their money coming in. Nobody wants to work and not get paid or be at home knowing you got a job. And I mean, just think about it. If you quit your job, you lose your 401k, you lose your health benefits, you lose, you know what I'm saying? Like, you put me in a horrible position and I still got bills coming in.
Yeah, the bills keep coming.
That's not stopping. Exactly. So, I think that they did that for the holiday travel, and it's all about selfishness with this. And then we're going back in January. But until then, I really feel like as citizens, we need to be coming up with what our game plan is, because I'm over it. I'm over the politicians at this point. And we do have good ones in office. I'm not saying that's everybody, but I just feel like we need to step up as citizens of the country and say, these healthcare premiums, this stuff is too much. This is, we hold all the cards. And I just think when we remember that, we can get a lot more done.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And you know what? We're going to roll this into our favorite segment, because I'm pretty sure my boy got some more to say about this.
Okay. Before we transition, I just want to leave off on a higher note. Even L'Real said, when we get out there, we vote, we win. Like with this last election, we just didn't see a blue wave going on. We saw a celebration even down to the black mayoral race that I was actually following, to the John Ewing that won the first black mayor in Omaha, Nebraska, Dorsey Apliers, the first black mayor in Albany, New York, Sharon Owen, Syracuse, New York, Patrick Braxton in Alabama, Mary Sheffield. Everybody was following their race in Detroit, Michigan, even down to here in Stockbridge, Georgia. Jaden Williams, the youngest, 22 years old, first black 22-year-old mayor, the youngest mayor, HBCU grad, and our friend of the show, Mayor LaRonda Petru, securing her second term here in Warner Robins, Georgia. And I think when black people say that we're on vacation, it doesn't mean that we're not going to vote. It just doesn't mean that we're not going to get involved into these performative protests, because when we vote for everybody, every single body. We want not just us, for everybody to win for us.
That's good.
Amen.
That's good. Well, look, we gonna keep it on rolling. My boy, he on a streak over here, so we gonna jump.
Number 3.
I'm like, you do all those names, or did you have those people's names on your screen? I mean, you was recalling them.
I was following some of them as well too. Like it was historical. These being the first black mayors in these cities. It's 2025. Even down to Detroit. Like, I think it was like over 324 years that this city's been existing, and we haven't had a black mayor, a black female mayor.
That's wild.
Like, come on. Well, you already know the story in Warner Robins, Georgia. First black mayor.
So look, we gotta move into our favorite segment of the show, which we entitled The Rant. Well, we give my good brother Isaiah 60 seconds to kind of speak whatever's on his mind. Like, he been ranting all this episode.
No.
So
I'm trying not to. I'm just like, hold him.
He been going in this entire episode. So I'm curious. I think he gave us a little teaser already, but curious to hear what he has to say for the rant for the month of November. Again, we're in the election month in this country, and so a lot of results have come out. And again, we always talk about voting and the importance of voting here. So, my brother, the floor is yours once again. So 60 seconds starting now. Give it to him.
While much of the country slept, the Senate struck a deal to reopen the government, and there would be applause by the return of function. But anyone paying close attention to this is not a victory. This deal restores government operations, but strips our guaranteed extension of the Affordable Care Act subsidies that have kept healthcare affordable for 20 million Americans. Democrats held every card, and still they folded. And when people call Democrat leadership weak, this is what they mean. We have the support of the people. We just had a blue wave election, and this administration approval is at its lowest point ever. And now Dems want to take a deal that gets the hope of a promise. The argument that reopening the government was a responsible choice is up for grabs. Responsibility without conviction is not leadership. And the same families who were forced to endure the shutdown will now face rising healthcare costs because their representative lacked the courage to stand firm. And every Democrat who supported this deal should have to explain to these families who will see their premiums spike why they thought this was acceptable. And what good is a government that reopens if it immediately abandons the people it governs? And that's that on that.
That's good, bro. And I kind of talked on it earlier. I understand why our government is so tightly coupled to some of this stuff. Like, we shouldn't, these government services shouldn't be used as a political pawn in this.
Right.
You're having disputes. Like, again, the fact that people not being able to have food, the fact that traveling and people can't even move around the country is being impacted, in which I'm pretty sure that was used as incentives to kind of reopen the government. But again, those things shouldn't even be a part of this process. And so I think we definitely have to, our system needs some overhaul. It needs to do something. And as the real kind of mentioned, we as a collective, like people, citizens, like we have the power. And even more so, like these human rights and things that should be afforded to all people should be available.
Yes.
And even if you aren't impacted by it, like the humanity of just having people to be able to live and prosper and not have to worry about these things, especially if we continue to consider ourselves the richest, the wealthiest, the whatever, the top of all these countries. We shouldn't have these people in these crises. And again, we have to have or show humanity outside of natural disasters or other things. Like, we should always want the best for our citizens. So look, intense episode this time, man. I think we're all kind of passionate about the stuff going on here. And look, and it was all sparked by this book here.
Book, 107 days.
107 days.
107 days by former Vice President, Miss Kamala Harris. So again, if you haven't read that book, go check it out. Tell us what you think about it. Had a great discussion about just this government shutdown ending. So again, being the longest shutdown in American history at 43 days. And my brother had 4 or 5 rants, but concluded with a rant on the ending of the shutdown. So great book, great discussion, great rant for this month of November. So Isaiah, tell them what we have coming up for next month here on Four Friends in the Book podcast.
Hey guys, before you get into this festive holiday that we have coming up soon, we want to let you know that we will be reading Go Higher by Big Sean. You do not want to miss it. Lareal, please let the viewers know when they can tune in.
You can tune in every third Thursday right here or wherever you're looking at us from.
And make sure if you're watching here on YouTube to subscribe to our channel, like the video, help us in the algorithm. Also, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook.
Absolutely, guys. And again, we're also on those podcasting services. So if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, check us out there. Look, you can listen to us when you're riding to work or in the gym, whatever you want to do. But also
on a Stairmaster.
Yeah, leave us a review there as well. We would love to get that feedback for you guys. Those our listening audience on our podcasting services. So thank you. But as always, let's continue to read, let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion right here on Four Friends in a Book. Thank you. Until next time.
Thank you, guys.